What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the second album by rapper and producer Jermaine Dupri. Basically, this product is called Instructions. And it came out in the fall of 2001. So the name of this particular product here is Jermaine Dupri was a cat that was kind of similar to Puff Daddy back in like the 90s as far as what's first going to happen. I want to say he found folks like Criss Cross and some of those particular type folks as far as what's first going to happen. He helped out with Usher, some of those particular type folks back, especially in like the Atlanta area as far as what's first going to happen. Now back in those days, I want to say he might have developed the label So So Def, which was a part of Def Jam as far as what's first going to happen, which found a number of hip hop artists. Pretty much like, yeah, the southern version of Puff Daddy back around those times in like the 90s. But in the 2000s and late 90s, he actually had an album in 98 called Life in 1472. I remember that particular one within a minor sense, not too much about it, but just that it released as far as this pitch can happen. But this is probably the more glossy type one. Came out kind of in a more awkward kind of year as far as this pitch can happen in like terms of the least southern hip hop and folks like that, as that was starting to amalgamate more, and that would be 2001. Particularly this album came out before Ludacris's Word of Mouth and pitches like that, so it's kind of within the pitch as far as saying these were some strange type times, just because a lot of things that were kind of currently predominant, at least throughout the 2000s, between like the Blueprint taking its impact and things like, you know, the mixtape scene, folks like that, some of those particular type fairs, Ludacris, T.I., Jeezy, some of those type folks, Play a Circle, and like further kind of UGK, Young Jock, Young Dro, some of those type folks in particular, hadn't really as full bound happened as much yet. This is kind of archaic production on here within a lot of senses. It's kind of like a relic in like a pretty large sense, and as a result, it's not much of like a full bound classic or really much anywhere close to it. Now, it's not a horrid album, but it is kind of the concept that this has some just more rougher and kind of more I feel like it's a conduit type project within the sense of just being able to have some relative good stuff on here, but it kind of shows its age within the pitch as far as saying that it's pretty similar. Like when certain senses folks may think that Word of Mouth by Ludacris is like a classic album, but I agree that the singles, the fact that Ludacris's Word of Mouth had 5 singles on there, is kind of within the pitch that there's a lot of album cuts on that particular album, and it's kind of the same thing with Back for the First Time, that one kind of being some awkward listens as far as having some cuts on there that are not as full bound. Now nowadays I might switch the tone a little bit with Back for the First Time, but it's kind of the concept. There are misses on some of those type of albums as much as the pitch kind of happens. It's the same thing with this particular fair. I mean, it has at least 2 good boisterous singles on here and some good star power within certain senses. There is a Neptune's beat on here, and the Clips is on here. UGK is on here. Surprisingly, the ROC from like Twisted Lore is kind of on here. Pitches like that. Usher helps out with the hook. Nate Dogg helps out. DPG member Nate Dogg helps out a couple of times, and like Corrupt and Field Mob are on here at least once. DeBrat and Candy Barres are on here, so some pitches like that. It's pretty star-studded within the pitches, considering the fact that Jermaine Dupri's primary concept is not really being a rapper. He was probably someone that had his raps written for him, like Puff Daddy, as far as what's going to happen. But this album is just more haphazard than anything else. I mean, it has some good moments on here, it has a good type aspect, but I just feel like the concept as to the fact that Southern hip-hop was not quite as amalgamated, full bound. It's kind of within the pitch, like T.I. and Jeezy were fleshing out trap music with I'm Serious, and then like with albums like I'm Serious and T.O.I., some of those type pitches, and Ludacris dropped Word of Mouth at the tail end of 2001, a month after this particular album. Though some pitches like that were kind of happening. Lil Jon was fleshing out his scene with like the Put Your Hood Up album from 2001, so it's kind of within the pitch. This is an early bird. It's kind of the pitch behind it. Jermaine Dupri was a part of that. He had a pretty good run. He had a pretty good run in the 2000s as far as this pitch can happen, particularly his 2005 album Young, Fly, and Flashy Volume 1. I liked every song on that particular album, recommend every song on there, gave that album a 10 out of 10. This album falls short compared to that one. And it has some good moments on here, but the main drawback to this particular album that makes it such a slack is just the fact that a lot of these productions just don't add up as full bound within the pitch, even with like guests that should help things out. You would think Jagged Edge was kind of in their prime in 2001 with that Nelly single, which I forget what it's called, like Where the Party At, some of those type pitches. So you would have thought that Jagged Edge would have turned in like a pretty good concept here for like a song, but that one fell flat. And like the Hate Blood, Jadakiss, and Freeway song was pretty cruddy, just like within the Hate Blood song with Jadakiss and Freeway was one of the worst productions on here as far as what's fair is going to happen. The Escape song Rock With Me was not that terrific within some of those type fares. Jazzy Hose Part 2 was kind of a disappointing Posse song that had Corrupt, Too Short, Field Mob, some of those type folks on there. So it's just some pitches. More than a handful of songs on this particular project are kind of slack and just have some just overall just jangled or just kind of not necessarily sonically pleasing kind of productions that just kind of are just not. A lot of these just warrant like a pretty fast skip as far as those pitches can happen just within the tone line. It's just not within the aspect. Now there are some good moments on here within the pitch, but it's this kind of concept. I feel like the more complaint that I have with this particular album's fair is just the concept as far as saying that it just is more based upon the styles of like the early 2000s kind of being more ancient within the concept, but it just not being fleshed out. Like I mean, it's not to say so much have slack against Jermaine Dupri, like he can't draw good music. It's just kind of the concept that this is kind of a shapeshifter that helped warrant some of the sounds that were getting ready to happen. Between this coming out before Ludacris's Word of Mouth and really in the early stages, right around the same time as T.I. was dropping trap music, it's just kind of within the pitch that it is kind of a flag bearer more so than anything else within the concept. Because like I said, I did give Jermaine Dupri's 2005 album a 10 out of 10, so it's just within the pitch as far as saying it's just kind of the concept that it's good, but it just kind of has this haphazardness just because it's kind of one of the initial kind of ones within that. But there are, I mean, I'm not, it may sound like I'm getting ready to give this album like a 2 or a 3 out of 10. It's actually going to get like a pretty decent enough score. Out of 13 songs on this album, there's 20 songs on the album, but there's 7 skits, so it narrows it down to 13. Out of the 13 songs, I wound up recommending 7.5. So it's been the pitch as far as saying a little bit more than half, but still the concept of it's enough to say it's not like a classic or really much close to it. So, but yeah, there were 2 singles on here, Ballin' Out of Control with Nate Dogg, which is a pretty good snag within the pitch behind a good concept, getting Nate Dogg back in those early 2000s days, back when he was doing hooks really excellently, or just back when Nate Dogg was in his second window of a prime. Then the second single is Welcome to Atlanta, which has Ludacris on there, which is also a bonus cut on his Word of Mouth album, which hadn't come out yet. So it's good type fare, but Ballin' Out of Control is like a frizzy kind of early 2000s night venue bounce to kind of get here. It's solid, but it's kind of retro within the aspect. Good percolate type song, kind of get within those pitches. It's a pretty hoppin' type one within the pitch behind it. It's just a little bit more airy and frizzy within the pitch behind it. I mean, it's a good type tune, but once again, the ancient type styles of this particular aspect just make it a little bit more where it's just kind of a percolate type song more so than a full-blown kind of dance club smash than some of those type pitches. And it's just kind of aspect, I mean, all of these folks, I mean, minus like maybe like the Eminem kind of Devil's Night album from 2001, for the most part, the production type fare was just kind of then like a Miami bass and Southern Fried type sense kind of finding its swings within the pitch. But this is not a bad song in any sense. This is good, but it's just kind of outlandish and just very uncommon as well. I say it's a pretty seldom type song. Just feels very off to the wayside in terms of like the commonplace perspective of it getting airplay in much senses. I'd say it just feels like one that's probably not even like a 3 out of 10 likelihood that it get plays too oftenly nowadays within pitch. It's this kind of concept. For the most part, most people think of Jermaine Dupri, they probably think of like Bow Wow or something like that, but it's not even within the commonplace sense that most folks probably recognize him having put out albums. But I look at it, good stuff. But Welcome to Atlanta is the second single. Now this is also a shared single with Ludacris, was the 5th single off of his Word of Mouth album. Good type pitch. It's like a sunny kind of traverse hop to kind of get here. Just Welcome to Atlanta is kind of a sunny traverse hop mileage to kind of get within those aspects. This kind of stuff to do today type pitches within some of that type errands kind of stretchers as far as this pitch kind of happens. So it's just kind of one more on the town, like a Typical type sense of getting some stuff done, getting the concept of this productive, just within the concept of this like I mean, it's a productive type song and it's busybody, but it's kind of in a feel good type mode within doing it. It's not like it's kind of like, damn, I got to do stuff to do, but yep, got to get stuff done, but I'm with it and I'm going to get it done and have some fun with it as well within pitch. You know, probably just the concept of getting some errands done, getting the bills paid, some of that type fare, but you know, grabbing some Burger King kind of in the in between, some fares like that, getting like some Arby's, some of those type fares to just keep things interesting just in the pitch. Just that typical pep, but just having a full spread kind of day. Just look within it. Ludacris definitely helps keep things interesting with his bombastic kind of flow, so it's a good type pitch. So yeah, the 8 songs I recommend on here are the 7.5 out of 13. I would say would be Ballin' Out of Control, Welcome to Atlanta, Money, Hose, and Power, Whatever, Get Some, Superfly, Let's Talk About It, and the Almost song is You Bring the Freak Out of Me. So talk about the Almost song, You Bring the Freak Out of Me. This is a decent one enough. I'd say it's like a shrill kind of pounding dance tonight. I'd say feeling good definitely, but kind of jangle within the pitch of delivery behind it. So it's not the most kind of sonically appropriate type. It's not the most kind of sonically appropriate type production type fare. I mean, it's a decent one to kind of have some noise for like the aspect, like a good dance club hop that goes with songs like Get Some and Ballin' Out of Control within the pitch behind it. But I feel like the concept behind it is a little bit more abrasive than like the concept of something that just is more smoother and just kind of more kind of like a good mingle. It just feels like the energy is kind of up real high and shrill within the aspect behind it, but it just kind of feels like it's just not as user friendly within the immediate kind of concept of like connecting as full bounds. It's kind of the pitch that it's a solid enough type song, but it kind of has the pitch of just having a little bit of jangle type towards it. This is more of a jagged type within the aspect of like the overall commotion it kind of causes within it. I mean, it makes the noise, but it's just kind of concept. It's just kind of here and there within the pitch, but it's good enough. Good noise gonna have for like some white noise, but probably not like the immediate one you'd make a beeline for within the pitch. But it is like some good product or like some step out within the fare behind it. So there are some car wash songs on here, some pitches like that for further kind of sunny days for like some vehicle traverse, along with songs like Welcome to Atlanta, particularly one of which would be Money, Hose, and Power, which is also on UGK's 2001 album as far as this pitch can have a good type concept here. It's like a good sunny cruise around, and I'd say definitely some car wash music, drive-through pitches like that is good for like a typical kind of day as far as this pitch can happen. So just one of those type fares, getting Wendy's, getting Arby's, some of those type pitches, just having typical kind of pizzazz, just getting crunk a little bit, just smoking a blunt in the car, something like that. Just more vehicle centric type stuff on like sunny type, summer type days, just within a relative kind of melded, just typical kind of Tuesday, Wednesday, some of those type fares. Not necessarily makeshift, but just more lunch break type music. Maybe just having an off day where you just have like the concept of just like the fare, just productiveness of just within the aspect of this sunny kind of Tuesday or Saturday, some of those type pitch just within a good car wash type music within the tone, and just like extra time pitches like that, just within a vehicle centric typeness. Another song that goes along with that pretty well would be Superfly. It's like a throwback kind of 70s out and about, I'd have to say here. Just a drowsy kind of bass guitar kind of thumper within the pitch. It really feels like something that would play in like some sort of billiards hall or something like that. It's kind of like a strip club, some of that night type fare, but just more amidst like the day fare of like 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, some of those type pitches. Good for like Aaron runs pitches like that, and it's kind of a feel good. Good for Aaron runs pitches like that, and it's kind of a feel good type song within the pitch behind it. So it's just kind of the concept. Definitely reminds of like something that out of like a James Bond movie, some of those type pitches where it just kind of has like that 70s kind of intermission type thing that you'd get like out of an Austin Powers movie, something like that. Just kind of fair, just looking snazzy, some of those type pitches. Just kind of concept when it says Superfly, it's just kind of the pitch that just feels like ripped out of 1974, some of those type fairs. So it's just from the pitch of just getting like a song just within that format, just kind of nice, good, sunny thumper. Further good car wash music, like I was saying. Another good song on here I'd have to say would be Whatever. This is a real smooth type one. This has Nate Dogg on here, so Nate Dogg's on here twice. ROC's on here twice as well. Good type pitch. Cat named Tyga's on here. It's like a woozy and breezy kind of pimpish styles that I have to say about this particular song. Just definitely reminds of Snoop around those particular times. Snoop Dogg, good pitch for that. It's like a good shindig pizzazz that I'd say here, and pretty good social fit. So it's kind of the concept of like a house party type fair within a certain sense. It's night venue kind of pizzazz and like a more just kind of some good social pizzazz and like a good modest type sense within the fair behind it. Just not the full bound craziest. I would probably play Ballin' Out of Control before this particular one, but it is a smooth type actor that's just real high. Just one of those pimpish type ones where you get some folks like that Sugar Free, which happens to be usually on those sort of pimpish type songs. He was pretty big in like the early 2000s, something Ludacris and Too Short. Some of those type folks would kind of be on within some of those type pitches. Just good type tone for some of that. Definitely feels like Snoop Dogg should have been on here, but Nate Dogg is a good replacement. It's kind of strange that the ROC is on here, but still some good type fare. Just real nice butter smooth type one with an aspect. It almost feels like an R&B type song, but it works real good. Real good smooth type flair about it. Another good initial one that probably could have been like a good buzz third single as far as this pitch can have would be Get Some. It's like an initial kind of night venue mingle to kind of get here. Just grab a shot at the bar or just grab a shot or two at the bar, some pitches like that. Good song to loosen up to within those fairs. It's good for like some ice breaking times as far as this pitch can happen. So it's just kind of a lazy type hit as far as this pitch can happen. Just the aspect of like the initial embrace of kind of the concept of like some night venue type player. Pretty much like a startup to like a song. If Ballin' Out of Control would probably be one to play at like 8:39. It's like things are starting to get a little bit more spicy. I look within the concept of Get Some is probably the initial moments of being at like these venues, some of that type fair, like 6:30, 6:45, 7:15, some of those type pitches. It's kind of definite ice breaking hit that works pretty damn well within the pitch behind it. I mean, for some of these type ones, these just has some better flair on here. Like folks named Boo and Gotti, don't know them as full well. I wonder if Boo is kind of the Boo Ross. I don't think it's Boo Rossini from like Jeezy's. From Jeezy's lore, but I think some folks, I don't really know as full bound about Boo and Gotti, but within the pitch they are on here. The ROC once again is on here, and then Usher's on here who helps out with the hook, so it's good type pitch. Usher was pretty big, 2001 pitches like that, so it's good type too, and he's kind of low key on here. But then let's talk about it's a nice one. This is a real nice hopper of one. This is like a Pharrell production who was pretty red hot in 2001. Having a Neptunes and Pharrell production back in 2001 was a pretty big deal around those pitches, so it's this is probably one of the best productions on the album, I'd say, in terms of those players. Like a jazzy kind of dance club hops kind of get here, this vintage kind of Neptunes bop as far as those pitches can happen. This early 2000s swag definitely is like some heat as far as those pitches can happen. So it's good type tone, just one of one of those dance mixes that just has a lot of flair about it. Just the concept of getting moving, some pitches like that, some of those particular type aspects. This is probably one of the more energetic ones on here. This probably could have been a single within a certain sense, just the aspect of having that particular pizzazz about it, but some good flair to kind of get that concept. So just early 2000s kind of swag. Swag rap wasn't as full bound around, but I do feel like Jermaine Dupri had enough swag even in like the early 2000s as far as this pitch kind of was just kind of more concept that I don't think swag was much of a full bound term back in 2001, 2002, but it's a good primer for some of that, just early bird for that particular fare about it. A good concept for like some jive. Clips is on this song. Now, this is before the Clips album from 2002, so it's a good type pitch. So this is like a primer to that as well. It's a good type fare. Yeah, I look after here. So basically, I talked about all the songs I recommend. So basically, some of these concepts on here, like I said, I feel like Jazzy Host Part 2 is kind of a disappointment. It's just some haphazard type ones that are really limp productions and don't really bring much compelling kind of energy about it. Jazzy Host Part 2 is one of those type ones. Same thing with Yours and Mine was just kind of a flat type one that just didn't deliver. Rock With Me with Escape kind of had that particular flair. Some of these type ones. Rules of the Game was kind of a cruddy type one. Some of these type pitches, Hate Blood with Jadakiss and Freeway just didn't deliver as far as these pitches can happen. This kind of aspect, I don't know. I feel like the concept behind it probably could have used another song. Like I like the concept about Welcome to Atlanta, but it just is kind of more of like a cruiser on type one more so than a full blown kind of dynamite type single. It's a good secondary or third single, but I do feel like Welcome to Atlanta probably should have been like the third or even fourth single. Ludacris was more in the right aspect by making that the fifth single more so than like the second single. Like I think if Ludacris would have went with that song to like promote his album word of mouth instead of songs like Area Codes and Roll Out My Business and like Move Bitch, some of those type ones, I don't think the album would have been as full bound dynamite. It's a good buzz type single. I definitely feel like for Welcome to Atlanta, it's kind of the pitch. It just feels like a follow up type one and like a later aspect. So I definitely think Ballin' Out of Control is a good look, good initial lead single within the pitch, kind of quieter within the aspect, but I probably would have went with Get Some, and then I probably would have also went with like the Let's Talk About It song with Pharrell and Clips as far as this pitch kind of had some good moments on here within those aspects, kind of the concept, but just I really feel like it's just more the more lackluster kind of ancient type productions like the early 2000s more so than the full bound aspect of this album. Full bound being cruddy within the pitch was this kind of concept, just kind of haphazard. So I'm gonna give this album as a score like a 6.75 out of 10. I feel like 7.5 out of 13 is kind of within the pitch behind it. Almost 8 out of 13, which would probably be like a 7. It's just within the pitch as far as saying it's just kind of the concept, but it's to like the full bound recommendation. Like You Bring the Freak Out of Me. The social score I think I'll give like a 7.25. I look after it. There are some moments on here that do have some good noise. This kind of the concept. I feel like Jermaine Dupri is a lot quieter, especially nowadays. Maybe in the 2000s he made a little bit more noise. There are a number of social moments on here to have for some of that step out. It's just kind of the concept that's a little bit off the wayside, not as immediately catchy as like some of the ones that were probably out of the 2000s. I would have to say it's a better look than it is. And it's definitely worth checking out to kind of say that there are some gems on here. It just has a mild learning curve about it that's a little bit more so than normal, but just within the concept, it does have some gems on here that are just not as frequent. So it's good type tone, good aspect for that, good tone. Some of these ones are kind of winners just in the sense of just having a little bit more variety and just having a little bit more variety and open mind as far as this pitch can happen. So in terms of the future, Jermaine Dupri hasn't really put out anything since like 2005. The Young Fly and Flashy Volume 2 never happened, which is very unfortunate. There is at least kind of like a unreleased type album within a pitch, but it doesn't really have Jermaine Dupri's songs on there, so that's the reason. I could review that if I really wanted, but I don't know if it'll necessarily happen because it just doesn't have Jermaine Dupri as much full bound. He might be on like 1 or 2 songs, but I'm not really as full bound sure within the pitch. Apart from that album that came out unreleased in 2006, not really as full bound sure about the rest of it, but yeah, just say I might, maybe at some stage I could review the 98, Jermaine Dupri album, but apart from that, I've basically covered most things by Jermaine Dupri, so it's a good type pitch here, good, pretty decent enough type project with an aspect behind it, but it's this kind of concept. It's haphazard, but it does have some gems on here worth fucking with, and pitches like that, some good type tones that does have some social hop and percolate kind of pizzazz about it.